Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the AEW Dynamite review show, last one of 2021. Wednesday, December 29th. Tonight on the show, Jade Cargill going to the TBS Tournament Finals. Is the Undisputed Era breaking up already? And Brandy Rhodes goes hard on Dan Lambert. Let's talk about Dynamite. Indeed. We're here. We got wrestling to talk about. What's up, everybody? Holiday season. Merry Christmas, Johnny. How are you, buddy?
I am well. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. People are talking about Toni Storm. People are upset about Toni Storm. Word is Toni Storm got released by the WWE, but this is not WWE letting people go, not budget cuts. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat already asking us about Toni Storm, Alex Tarras, Ryan Katz, Silent by Deadly. Toni Storm...
there's no show Friday, that's why.
Yeah, I guess so. Toni Storm asked for her release. According to Dave Meltzer, Toni Storm quit the WWE. I know she just wrestled Charlotte Flair on... thank you, Sasha. She just wrestled Charlotte Flair, Friday night on SmackDown? Lost the match for the SmackDown Women's title.
It was a tape show.
Yeah. Nevertheless, she was just on the latest episode of SmackDown wrestling Charlotte for the belt. Right? But according to Dave Meltzer, Storm quit, was not fired. Apparently she quit the WWE. Why she quit WWE, I don't know. But a lot of people saying, whoa, why? How could they fire somebody like this? They can't build new stars, and here's Toni Storm. She's a new star. She's wrestling Charlotte for the belt. You would think they'd want to keep her around. Why did the WWE keep shooting themselves in the foot? Well, that's not really the case. Toni Storm didn't want to be there, so they let her go. So I think you could maybe applaud the WWE for letting her out of her contract when she didn't want to wrestle there anymore. Last time I heard that's a good thing. If you don't want to wrestle somewhere and the WWE says, okay, pal, you can go, I think that's a plus for the WWE. Shows that they won't keep you there as a prisoner, as a captive wrestler. I mean, you sign the contract, they could keep you there as long as they want. WWE didn't have to let her go. When a wrestler quits, it doesn't really mean that they quit. It means that they asked for their release and they were granted their release by the WWE. Which is what happened here with Toni Storm. She asked for her release, according to Dave Meltzer, who's usually pretty reliable on these things. I don't think he's going to come out and say that if it's not true. But I do believe that Toni Storm quit. I buy that. I'm not sure why. Ray Cruz, member of the team, thank you, Ray. He says Storm might go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and join her boyfriend, Juice Robinson. I'd say unlikely because, there's no women in New Japan. I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's no women's wrestling to speak of in New Japan. Now, I know that they have something going on at Wrestle Kingdom with some women, and they've done that before at Wrestle Kingdom. They've had women's matches there, but it's just like Stardom coming in. Stardom, which is an all-women's promotion in Japan. Stardom would, loan some talent or kind of jump on the card because it's a big dome show. Biggest wrestling show of the year in Japan. Wrestle Kingdom. So, yeah, New Japan's going to throw some women's matches on that. They're going to have Mayu Iwatani and Starlight Kid versus Tam Nakano and Saya Kamitani at Wrestle Kingdom this year. I know Johnny North's really excited about Starlight Kid and Saya Kamitani. No, I don't.
Not at all.
I don't know you don't know who they are, and neither do I, and that's fine. But I don't think Toni Storm goes to Japan to work for New Japan Pro Wrestling. She could go back to Stardom. She did wrestle in Stardom. But honestly, I mean, it seems obvious, right? Toni Storm, she seems like a star. Where would you put her in pro wrestling? If you were AEW and you look at your women's roster and you see that Toni Storm is available, wouldn't you sign her right up? I feel like AEW needs somebody like Toni Storm. They need to beef up their women's division. WWE still has them beat as far as the women's division. I mean, WWE doesn't have anybody like Jade Cargill, but that's another story. But overall, the WWE women's division is much stronger. And Toni Storm was one of these young wrestlers that was going to be a big piece of the division going forward, I thought. I had a lot of hopes in Toni Storm. I thought the WWE was going to make her one of their next big stars. She goes. I think AEW would be very smart to pick her up. AEW, Impact Wrestling, any of the American wrestling companies. If she is willing and she doesn't want to go back to Japan to be with her fiance or husband, or I don't know if they're married yet, but Juice Robinson, right, who does wrestle primarily in Japan, which has got to be tough, got to be a strain on the relationship if she's wrestling all over the United States and he's in Japan living there full time. It's not easy. So maybe she does want to go back to Japan and work for Stardom. I don't know. I'm not Toni Storm. I don't know Toni Storm personally. I haven't asked Toni Storm why she quit WWE. This happened today. I don't know. But I think she quit. I don't think she was fired. So surprising though, right?
Well, like you said, I mean, she just wrestled for the SmackDown Women's Championship and then is gone. So that's kind of surprising. But I always say, if you're not happy, I mean, you should leave. Like that's it. Just comes up straight like that. Like, if you're not happy where you're at, get out. Like, there's other place to wrestle. Like, doesn't Juice also wrestle for Impact Wrestling as well? Like, I think she'd actually fit pretty good there. They have a pretty solid women's division there. So, I mean, there's AEW, like you say. There's other places. Like, it's not just WWE. Again, if you're not happy with whatever was going on, there's other places for her. Like, she's talented enough, she can find other work.
I don't know if Juice is still an Impact. I haven't seen Impact in a while.
I feel like he was out Bound for Glory at least, though, was he not? You saw Bound for Glory.
Yeah, but that was in October, man. How am I supposed to remember? I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, like, he does wrestle in the States every now and then, so it's not impossible. I don't think it's that difficult, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her in Impact again, just because they have a pretty solid division there.
He was at Bound for Glory in October. I just checked. He did wrestle there. But I don't know if he's there full-time in Impact. I don't know. But I think AEW makes a lot of sense for Toni Storm. But again, like, if your husband lives in Japan, do you want to live in the United States? Right? Like, it's tough. It's tough. Shout out to Doug Hepburn checking us out. Angelo Contagonis. Members of the team. Don't forget to become a member. If you haven't become a member, what are you waiting for? Join.ringsidereport.net. Join.ringsidereport.net. Become a member of the team. Toni Storm, big story of the day in pro wrestling today. I'm not going to try and guess as to why she left WWE. Was it a push? Was it money? Was it just not wanting to be there and wanting to be with her husband? I don't know. I'm not going to guess. All I know is she's not a part of the WWE's roster anymore. And with a thinning roster, you would think she'd be somebody you'd want to keep around. We talked about WWE Day 1 on Monday night after Raw, and that was the Day 1 preview. So if you're looking for a Day 1 preview show, that was it. Monday night on Raw, after Raw, we did the post show. We reviewed Raw. A slimmed-down roster for sure on Raw, and I expect a slimmed-down roster on Day 1. It doesn't really matter what we predict for Day 1, who we think is going to win any of the matches. None of those matches may happen. Like, a lot of those matches could be totally scrapped. I'm not really sure what Day 1 is going to be or what's going to happen. WWE did Raw. They have a ton of people out because of COVID. Everybody's got COVID these days. Everybody. And a bunch of people in WWE seem to have it. And who knows if they make Day 1. You saw Big E and Seth Rollins and a bunch of people doing these at-home cell phone promos on Raw. It's because they're home quarantining. Will they be at Day 1 on Saturday night? Who knows? But we will be here right after Day 1 to recap the action, tell you what happened, tell you who wrestled. apparently there's going to be a big angle that's going to lead to WrestleMania featuring Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. So apparently they're going to be there, but who knows? With COVID cases spiking and everything going crazy again with the pandemic. You remember last time when the pandemic started, Roman Reigns took his ball and went home. He said, hey, I'm immunocompromised here. I don't want to be around. So he went home. Imagine if he does that now. You think we see Roman versus Brock on Saturday? I think probably, but who knows, right, John? What do you think? What's your gut feeling on day one? Do we see a bunch of cancellations?
I think modifications. I think for the most part, you're going to see a lot of matches. Like, as far as we all know right now, it's only Seth Rollins that's been confirmed that has COVID. Like, Big E wasn't at Raw, but he never admitted that he has COVID or not. He hasn't come out and said that. Maybe it was just precaution, like Roman Reigns. It was just precaution that he wasn't at the house shows this past weekend. Mm-hmm. So we don't know yet. I mean, I think SmackDown will give us a better indication, I think. But even then, I mean, you saw it at SummerSlam. Going into SummerSlam, you thought it was Bianca and Sasha up till, like, bell time pretty much. And then suddenly, it's Becky out of nowhere, you know?
Yeah. I didn't think that Sasha was going to make the match, right? I mean, I remember going into it thinking, this match is not going to happen. WWE didn't tell us that it wasn't going to happen, but we told you it wasn't going to happen. I wonder what day one is going to look like. And yeah, okay. You could say that she's being, or that you know, a lot of the talent is being taken off because of, you know, caution. They're trying to be cautious and keep everybody home so that they could be at day one. Sure, but Seth Rollins said he has COVID, right?
Yeah. He's kind of screwed.
I mean, some people do have COVID. It's not just precaution for everybody. Some people actually do have COVID. And if Seth has COVID, does Becky have COVID? And what's the rules now?
Hey.
What's the rules now? Like, everything changes so much. It's not just like what's happening in WWE. It's like what's happening in America these days. Because I saw that the CDC said before if you had COVID, you had to isolate for 10 days. But now they're saying 5 days should do it. Which, really? So I don't know. Maybe 5 days, you know, they're good to go. They take this week, they're good for Saturday, right? Like maybe if Seth does have COVID, he could still appear on Saturday. I don't know, John. You tell me.
It's 5 days, but he also has to pass like 2 COVID tests. He has to get 2 negative COVID tests. So like the day before and like the day of day one, he has to get negative COVID tests in order to be in the match.
I heard WWE stopped testing for COVID.
But apparently they're still going to do that, though, at least. Like, if you got COVID, they're going to stop testing for COVID. But if you already have COVID, to be able to actually wrestle again, you have to actually pass 2 negative tests. Or get negative twice.
Right. So if you test for COVID after that, like, say you don't have COVID currently, and you come to the arena with COVID, they're not going to test you, so you can just spread it around to everybody, right? That's their new policy?
Well, who knows if they have it or not, right, too? I mean, they obviously should still test, but they're not going to.
But they're not.
For whatever reason they're doing that.
Well, because if you keep testing, people are going to keep testing positive, and that's not good.
There's that, yeah. It seems like that's what they're doing. I don't agree with it, but that's what they're going to do, apparently.
I don't know what's going on there with the WWE and their testing, but apparently they stopped testing people. They don't want to know. Okay.
Right, yeah. No harm, no foul. That's kind of their way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's a little crazy, but hey. That's what they're doing. I don't know, man. The COVID rules are changing all the time. Right? Like, it's hard to keep up. It's like, it's really bad. We got to shut everything down. But it's not so bad. You don't really have to stay in your house for that long if you have COVID. Doesn't the NFL, like, allow players to play if they're asymptomatic, but they're positive testing for COVID? Isn't that, like, a new thing?
I mean, each league is kind of different, right? I thought that was more the NBA, but I could be wrong with that one as well.
I saw here.
I mean, like you said,
it's
changing all the time. It's changing all the time, like you said.
Yeah, like in Quebec, they said, if you're an essential worker and you have COVID, you know, under certain circumstances, you can just go back to work. It's fine. I'm like, wait a second. What? They're sending people back to work with COVID? That's a new one. I never heard that one before. I thought if you had COVID, you had to isolate in a bubble for 2 weeks and don't come out, and if you did come out, you'd be shot on the spot. You know, I thought that was the situation. I thought we were, like, quarantining people with COVID. I didn't know that you could have COVID and then walk around and, like, whatever. If you give it to everybody else, no big deal. But we have to shut everything down. But, yeah, the COVID's not so bad. But shut things down because it's really bad. But it's really not so bad, so don't worry about it. But you better worry about it. It's fucking confusing, the messaging on this thing. I don't know what to believe. Right? Like, isn't it odd, John? You're Captain COVID. You know about these things.
I wouldn't say I'm captain of it, but
you're captain.
It is very weird how it's like things keep switching almost day to day pretty much. So it's kind of difficult. The best thing everyone can do is just, you know, try to stay healthy. I mean, if you haven't got tested, maybe get tested.
Yeah. I know some people that have COVID, John. I found out today that a bunch of people I know have COVID. A bunch. And maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow night on Ringside Report MMA.
Wow, okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm definitely going to have to tune in for that now.
Wild. Crazy times in the world right now. Crazy times. But I don't have COVID, and Johnny doesn't have COVID, so far we are okay.
So far. But like you say, the numbers keep going up in Quebec. It's pretty bad right now.
Yeah. Well, the numbers go up, but it seems like it's kind of a mild thing. It's not so bad. This current generation of COVID. From the experiences that I've heard about. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I know about Dynamite. I watched Dynamite tonight. Okay, can we talk about AEW?
Yeah, let's talk about wrestling.
Yeah, I'm tired of this. Jim Ross comes back. He doesn't have COVID. He doesn't have skin cancer anymore either. He beat skin cancer, back on commentary. Good old JR. Good God Almighty. By God. Great to hear him back.
Good start.
Salute to
Great
JR.
start to the show.
Great start. And then we had a match. FTR, Matt Hardy, and the Private Party beat Christian, Jurassic Express, and the Lucha Brothers by pinfall. FTR bumped Christian into Pentagon. Christian and Pentagon were arguing. The Lucha Brothers and the Jurassic Express guys not getting along during the match. Christian gets rolled up after he bumps into Penta. 1, 2, 3. FTR get the win. I thought the match was actually pretty decent. Like, for a 10-man tag, I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't mind like the 10-man tag to start, but then you went to a trios match right afterwards. I was like, well, that's a little too much right there.
This whole show was multi-man matches.
Well, no, not every little thing. You had a squash match, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Colin Delaney. It's been a long time since you've seen him, I imagine.
Yeah, what happened to him? I mean, no disrespect, but...
Well, he got old.
He got old and, like, man, he doesn't look good. He looks, like, very different than the last time I saw him. But there was, like, a trios match, and then the main event was a trios match. Too many multi-man tag team matches on this show. But, hey, what are you going to do? They're setting up a lot of solo matches for next week, so they had to do that this week. We'll talk about next week, too. Next week is a big title match between Bryan and Hangman. A lot of big matches on Dynamite next week. This was the kind of a
this week
setup, right?
It was kind of, it was kind of just the setup for next week kind of thing. Like, I mean, it wasn't really terrible matches, but not matches I'm going to be like, wow, remember that when that happened. It just felt like this week just happened kind of thing.
Do you have a match of the night?
Yeah, that's tough. Wow, that's really tough. Like, I wanted to say Thunder Rosa against Cargill, but honestly, that was very disappointing. Like, I'm sorry. I know how much you like Cargill and like think how she's like the best right now, but she was really underwhelming in that match.
She was
like
pretty
anything
good.
Like
this is her like what 15th match as a pro. Get out of here. She was pretty good. Selling the leg. She was trying.
She was trying, but you could tell like she needs more experience. Like they're pushing her way too fast for this. Like if anything, they should have Thunder win this match. Like that would have been a much better match. Thunder against Ruby Soho.
Yeah, two baby faces though. It doesn't make sense. This is Jade Cargill's
It's a better
time.
match.
You can't have somebody like Jade Cargill losing. Look at her. Nobody's convincing beating her right now. Nobody. Nobody's convincing standing up to her. She's a monster. Don't mess with Jade Cargill. I thought she was all right tonight. Is she the best wrestler in the company? Certainly not. I think the 10-man tag was probably the best match we saw all night. Honestly, I thought the opener was the best match. I love FTR's theme song, too. God damn, they have the best song in wrestling. It's so old school. I love it. Feels like an old Four Horsemen song, you know? It's fantastic. But I thought that was the best match of the night. The opener, the 10-man tag. Jade and Thunder, though, was all right. I didn't hate it, John. It was fine. And then Jade won, which is exactly how things should go. Jade won with help. Some interference from somebody in a mask and hood hitting Thunder with a foreign object while manager Smart Mark Sterling had the referee distracted. Jade advances to the finals of the tournament. Thunder Rosa went to attack Jade after the match. Sore loser, Thunder Rosa. And then the masked wrestler came and helped Jade again and revealed herself to be Mercedes Martinez, which, she's been in AEW before. She had a brief stint in AEW, went to NXT, then got fired from WWE, had a brief moment in Impact, and now she's back in AEW as backup to Jade Cargill. Ruby Soho hit the ring and cleared Mercedes and Jade out. And it'll be Ruby Soho versus Jade Cargill next week on Dynamite for the first ever TBS Championship. Winner is the first ever champion. You know it's going to be Jade Cargill. Let's go, Jade. I thought the match was fine. I didn't think it was great. I'll give it to you, John. It wasn't great. Wasn't match of the night. But
Right.
For how cool Jade Cargill is and looks and promo and gimmick and everything, I give her a pass with the in-ring stuff because she's new and she's picking it up faster than most. Like, she's way better than Anna Jay. They have relatively the same experience. She's way better than Anna Jay. And you know what else? She's better than Hook. I said it. Way better than Hook. Less experience.
Not as over, though.
Not as over. Well, with me, she's like 10 times way more over. But, like, come on. Hook? Does Hook look intimidating to you? Look at that guy. He's tiny. He looks like a child. People were trying to say, oh, Hook, Hook, Hook. Look at Jade Cargill. She towers over her competition. She's super jacked. Look at Hook. He's tiny. He's no-selling 300-pound men. It's ridiculous. Hook. I don't understand this internet fascination with Hook. Jade Cargill is a million times better than Hook. People should appreciate Jade Cargill.
I mean, totally different kind of wrestlers, though. I mean, Hook, you could tell there's just so much Taz, though, when you see him, though. That's where the no-selling comes from.
Taz was intimidating. Hook looks like a little punk.
Well, I'm not going to deny that his look needs some improvement, but he's still young, so I'm not really worried about that. His execution, though, is quite good, though. He's very good at hitting suplexes. His dad taught him well.
Yeah, suplexes are like okay, but do you buy it? He's 22 years old. He looks about 14. Do you buy it? I don't buy shit that he's doing. I'm like, all right, they like
potential. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, but not like he's not there. Like maybe in 5 years, but people are treating him like he should be the next, champion.
Yeah, not that's too much, but like I definitely see him as like a star one day. Like give him a couple of years.
Couple years.
But he's on his way.
He's only 3 years younger than MJF. 3 years difference. Look at how much better MJF is than he is. Come on. It's ridiculous. Not even close.
Totally different wrestlers. Different wrestlers, though, too.
Yeah, MJF is way better, is what I'm saying. So is Jade Cargill. I just don't understand this fascination with Hook. Like, yeah, he's got a couple of moves, and he's got a good theme song, Action Bronson. I like that, but I don't know. I see him, and I'm like, this guy? I don't buy this guy. He's so small. Like, Taz wasn't big, but Taz was, like, thick and intimidating. Hook does not look intimidating. He doesn't look serious. I don't get it. Is he supposed to be the AEW's answer to who's that kid, Ben Askren's son in the UFC? You know who I'm talking about? He looks like a child. He fights in the UFC. Chase Hooper. Have you seen this guy? You know who I'm talking about?
I don't think I've seen him, no.
Chase Hooper is... This is who Hook reminds me of. UFC fighter Chase Hooper. This kid. Look at him. Tiny.
No, honestly, Hook's got a better physique.
Yeah, well, this guy could beat Hook's ass because he actually knows how to fight. Right, but this is Chase Hooper. People say he's Ben Askren's son. Look at him. He's tiny.
I can see the Ben Askren resemblance.
Yeah, he fights in the UFC, this guy. But that's what Hook Taz reminds me of. Chase Hooper. It's AEW's answer to Chase Hooper. But AEW fans are treating him like he's the new Stone Cold Steve Austin or something. It's bananas. Bananas. All right. Enough about Hook Taz. I mean, whatever. Jade Cargill beats Thunder Rosa. And I thought it was fine. I think the highlight of this show was Brandy Rhodes and Dan Lambert somehow. Right? Was this the best thing we saw all night?
So. Any segment you have when you mention Cornette and Heyman, I mean, that got my attention.
Okay, Johnny likes name dropping. Dan Lambert cuts an in-ring promo with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Lambert starts by mocking Arn Anderson, saying, Arn, you just kissed Cody's ass, and you're just a guy. You used to be a horseman, and now you're just pathetic, and kissing Cody's ass. You kiss a guy's ass who kisses another guy's ass to keep his job. Pathetic. And then Lambert...
Actually, didn't start that good.
No, it wasn't that great with the Arn Anderson stuff. But then he starts talking about Brandy. And he says Brandy is the only person, if that's her real name, which I think it is, shockingly. He says Brandy is the only woman named Brandy that he's ever met that isn't a stripper. Because most people named Brandy, or Bambi, as Lambert was calling her too, strippers. It's a stripper name, which, you can't really argue with that. And then Ethan Page chirps in. He says, well, Brandy's not currently a stripper. Now she's got a new job. She thinks she's a wrestler, which was pretty damn funny because, she's not a great wrestler. And a lot of female pro wrestlers start off in stripping, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I could name a few that work the pole before they work the ropes. Both noble professions. No problem with that. Lambert talks about Cody's dumb neck tattoo. Says he got a Transformer logo tattooed to his neck. And even Mike Tyson is laughing at that stupid tattoo. And then says Lambert says Cody sucks up to Tony Khan to take a spot from a more deserving wrestler like Ethan Page or Scorpio Sky. And the fans, were not with Dan Lambert when he was shitting on Arn Anderson. They were like, boo, boo, boo. When he starts going off on Brandy Rhodes, they're like, ooh, oh, man, okay. And then he starts talking about Cody and his neck tattoo, and the fans are with him. It's like they went from hating him to kind of being interested to loving him when he started talking about Cody because the fans absolutely hate Cody. So Lambert starts to get cheered when he starts talking about Cody. Brandy Rhodes comes out to massive boos at this point because Lambert has brought the crowd onto his side, which I'm not sure he's supposed to be doing right now. I think he's supposed to be the heel, but who knows? Cody's booked as the babyface, but he's clearly the heel. Lambert is a heel, but I think they're trying to turn him babyface or whatever. It's a byproduct of what's happening. But it was just a bizarre segment where they seemed to just let it all hang out. Brandy comes out, and as soon as she comes out, boos. And she's like, Lambert, you're a less talented version of Paul Heyman. Which I immediately thought, he's kind of doing that job on your show. Shouldn't you not say that he's like a B version of the guy on the WWE show? That didn't seem smart.
I don't find he is Paul Heyman whatsoever.
No,
like what Lambert said back was like correct.
Yeah, he's like, well, actually, I prefer Jim Cornette. He's like, actually, I think I'm a B version of Jim Cornette, not Paul Heyman. But
which is 100% accurate.
Yeah, he's very Cornette-ish, you know? And if you've ever heard Cornette, he's got a lot of terrible things to say about Brandy Rhodes, right?
Well, I'm sure there's more to come.
Yeah, I mean, Cornette, I don't think, you know. 3 things Jim Cornette likes. Sprite, watching his wife have sex with other men in front of him, and shitting on Brandy Rhodes. 3 things Jim Cornette cannot live without.
I don't know if he hates Brandy that much, but I'm sure.
Yeah, you're
he'll
right.
have some nice things to say after this week.
I don't think Jim Cornette hates Brandy Rhodes as much as he likes watching his wife have sex with other men in front of him. I think he prefers that. I don't think there's anything Jim Cornette likes more than watching his wife have sex with other men in front of him, except maybe Mid-South Wrestling. I think he likes that probably more, and the Rock and Roll Express or whatever. Anyways, suck it, Jim Cornette. What do you know? I like making fun of Jim Cornette.
That's mean to say.
Why?
That's mean.
Why? He likes watching his wife have sex with other men. Does he not? It's not mean if it's true.
Why the suck it?
Well, because it's funny. Because he's a rude man. He says terrible things. Says horrible things, Jim Cornette. Not as bad as other people, but, you know. Actually, with some of the things I've heard other people say recently, Cornette seems tame, which shows you where the world is going. Brandy asked Dan Lambert when's the last time he got beat up by a woman and didn't have to pay for it, which was a weird comment. Does Dan Lambert pay? Does Dan Lambert pay for women to beat him up? Is that like his kink? Is he into that? And Brandy just kind of exposing it there? Is that real? Some guys like that. Johnny North, you like the 50 Shades movies, right? You're a big fan. You understand about all that type of stuff. I don't know what that line was about. When's the last time a woman beat you up and you didn't have to pay for it? And then the fans started booing Brandy after that line. I was just like, what the fuck? What? Is Dan Lambert, is he into that?
I mean, you know more about American Top Team than I do, so I don't know. Like, is there something going on that we don't know? Like,
they don't usually talk about that on the UFC broadcasts. Amanda Nunes fights out of American Top Team. On the weekends, Dan Lambert pays her large sums of money to whoop his ass. That doesn't happen, you know? Or tail of the tape. Amanda Nunes was paid $2,000 last weekend to whoop Dan Lambert's ass and hit him in the balls with a spiked bat. Doesn't happen. Although, I would enjoy the detail. Fans booing Brandy, and then Lambert's like, hey, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and everybody watching TV right now wants to slap you in the face, so I welcome the opportunity to be the one to do it. I'm like, wait, what? Like, this just got progressively crazier, right? Brandy's like, You're a shitty Paul Heyman. And he's like, more like Jim Cornette. And Brandy's like, hey, you pay for women to beat you up. And then Dan Lambert's like, yeah? How about I beat you up right now on TV? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, I can understand having a dislike for somebody, but you're actually going to attack a woman on television, Dan Lambert? Yet the fans are cheering for Dan Lambert at this point, which, maybe not, right? Brandy says, yeah, you might be a black belt, but I'm a black bitch. And I was like, oh, shit. And then it looked like Brandy and Lambert were about to fight. Brandy's like taking her earrings off. I was like, damn. And then Dustin Rhodes comes out. Not Cody.
Smart. Very smart.
Wife's about to get beat up by Dan Lambert. Cody doesn't come out? How is that smart? What do you mean smart? Where's Cody?
You want the crowd back on your side. You bring out the actual baby face. It's a good idea.
Yeah, but
It worked too.
yeah, doesn't make Cody look good, right? Makes Cody look more of a heel that he doesn't come out and defend his wife. Dustin comes out. People like Dustin. He gets between everybody. Ethan Page cheap shots Dustin, drops him, and then they all leave. And that was the end of the segment.
It was fun.
It was a wild ride. I did not expect Brandy Rhodes versus Dan Lambert promo to be the highlight of the show. But it was. Better promo than CM Punk.
Punk had a good promo, though.
Yeah, I know, but Brandy was better.
Well, more action. There was just no action in the Punk thing. Punk was fine what he said, but we had action here.
This is all action. I loved it. I love this so much. Dan Lambert and Brandy Rhodes. Crazy stuff. Just crazy. Highlight of the show for sure. Elsewhere, we had 2.0 and Daniel Garcia beating Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. Big Magic rolling up Santana with a handful of tights, cheating to win. Big win for 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. They beat up Santana after the match. Eddie Kingston was like hurt somewhere. Ortiz, I don't know where Ortiz was. Where'd Ortiz go?
I think he got thrown to the outside or something.
Chris Jericho made the save with his baseball bat, clears all the bad guys out of the ring. But while Kingston and Ortiz are checking on Santana, Jericho's like posing for the crowd. Eddie Kingston didn't like that, told the truck to cut Jericho's music, and then Kingston got into Jericho's face, and they had a bit of an argument there in the ring. But Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho seem like they have a thing going on, and that was the main point of this whole segment here, which is fine. Well done.
Well, I think that's the true feud that's going to come out of this. Like, what's happening right now is kind of just the in-between stuff, and really it's just building towards that. Kingston versus Jericho.
Yeah. I like how they did it, though, right? Jericho coming in. The crowd is cheering for Jericho. They're singing his song. He's loving it. He's been gone for a while. He's making his return. He's soaking it in. It didn't seem bad until the camera got a good shot of like Santana down and Kingston and Ortiz like checking on him, and then Kingston kind of looking over at Jericho like, you're not, you didn't come out here to help your friend. You came out here to get the love from the crowd. You came out here for yourself, not for Santana. Good stuff from Eddie Kingston. Like the way he sold it, just with the facial expressions, I thought it was great. Eddie Kingston's doing a hell of a job.
I just wonder, like, how they're really going to sell this, though. I mean, again, two baby faces against each other, like you say, it's tough. But Kingston kind of blurs the line between good and evil, so I guess it still works. But I think it would just be better if he was wrestling actual heels without Kingston at this point.
Jericho coming off like kind of the egomaniac heel in that moment, but also
yes
maybe
and no,
not.
I mean,
yeah, you kind of understand his point of view too. But yeah, that seems like where they're going. MJF cuts a backstage promo, says Sting is an untrained outlaw hack and wonders who trained him, which I thought was funny. MJF says if he was working for a more professional company, he wouldn't have to face guys like Sting. And we'll find out what happens during the bidding war of 2024, which is now a ongoing story for MJF. His AEW contract runs out in 2024, and he's teasing going to the WWE as a heel tactic. Of course, the most heel thing an AEW wrestler could do would be jump ship to the WWE, and that's what MJF is teasing. MJF says the people wanted him to face CM Punk, but CM Punk spent the whole match last week running around, running away from him, which, of course, MJF did. MJF talks about the Revolution ladder match where the winner will get an AEW title shot and tells Wardlow that if he gets the title shot, he would have to relinquish it to MJF. And then MJF's lawyer shows up and explains to Wardlow that in the contract, he has already agreed to give up a title shot or the title itself to MJF. I don't know.
I think the shot, yeah.
The shot, right? Why not the title? Like, he said the shot, and I was like, the shot? Why wouldn't you just, like, let him win the belt and then just, he has to give it to you like Andre and Ted DiBiase type of thing?
Well, I guess going to the ladder match is really the hard part. He can do the rest kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that ladder match, they're already talking about it, is at, what, Revolution?
It's still far away than March 6th.
March 6th. That's the next AEW pay-per-view.
Isn't that also like the WWE house show as well in Laval?
Ah!
Wow.
I think
That's
you're
too
right.
bad. Guess no watch along for that.
Well, we don't do watch-alongs
post-show,
usually.
sorry.
Yeah, probably not then, I guess, because I'll be going to the WWE show. Although, honestly, do you think that March 6th show is actually going to happen?
I like to think so. I like to think things will get better. I like to stay positive.
I'm pessimistic. I'm not sure that actually happens. Honestly, March 6th, I was like, that seems a little soon. I don't know if it happens. They can't do it December 30th. You're telling me they're going to do a show March 6th? Full capacity? Like, they just cut capacity. You're not allowed to go to anything anymore. Right? Everything's like, no.
I didn't say full capacity.
Well, they have to do full capacity, John, because they already sold tickets for full capacity.
Yeah, but didn't they only sell like 50 some odd percent already?
No. They sold over 50%.
Okay, well, maybe just have the people that actually bought the tickets, that's it, but don't sell anymore.
But that's still like, 75%, 80% capacity for this building. You're still talking about, 5,000 to 8,000 people in an arena, and you're telling me that you can't have any people in an arena on January 1st, but on March 6th, 2 months later, it'll be fine, full capacity? I'm skeptical, is what I'm telling you. If you have tickets to that show on March 6th in Laval, Quebec, don't be surprised if it gets canceled or postponed too. I'm skeptical. I don't see how so much could change in 2 months. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out and everything will be all right, but that whole everything's going to be fine thing didn't fucking last. Wardlow beats Colin Delaney after about 5 power bombs. He's like Mike Awesome. All he does is power bombs. Wardlow. It's his new gimmick. Sean Spears hit Delaney in the back with a chair as he was leaving the ring. Another Wardlow squash. It's a build of Wardlow for some reason.
Well, they had the promo with MJF. It really just seems like they're slowly building that face turn. I could see it happen in the ladder match, where maybe he decides like not to win just to piss off MJF, maybe.
Right. It could happen. I don't know what the Wardlow thing is, and honestly, the Wardlow MJF, Batista turning on Triple H story that they're doing, it seems so obvious and so overdone that I just couldn't care less. I hope they delay it, because if they do it if they do it this year or in 2022, I feel like it'll be too early. You got to let that live for a few years before you pull the trigger, because I don't see Wardlow turning on MJF and then immediately being a main event player that you could take seriously and care about. He's like a low mid-card guy. You could beat Colin Delaney all you want, but I don't believe in you beating a guy like, Miro or Jericho or, any of the top kind of guys in the company. Or even the mid-card guys like a Darby or an Orange Cassidy, I don't buy Wardlow. Honestly, I don't think there's much to him. He looks cool, but his wrestling is and his promos are non-existent.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, but I think he needs to make that next level. He's got to get those tests, in a sense. Like, just to have those matches, just to see what he can do.
Yeah, he seems about like Test, like not as good as Test. The wrestler Test. But seems like a shittier version of Test. Good, he wishes. He wishes he was good as Test. The Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish are backstage doing a promo. Cole talks about being a big, happy group all together. The Bucks don't seem too down with the program. They're saying Kyle didn't even say hi to them, and they don't seem to want to be friends with Kyle O'Reilly, and they all leave except for Kyle and Cole. And Kyle and Adam Cole talk about how they have heat, but the key to survival in AEW is faction, so they have to stay together. And Kyle wants Adam Cole to prove himself tonight and prove that he can trust him. And then we have a match. It is Undisputed Era versus Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. The Undisputed Era get the win when Brandon Cutler hits the ring, jumps in the ring. Referee just allows it. He gets taken out, but while the ref is distracted with Cutler, the Young Bucks jump in, super kick Chuck and Trent, which allow the O'Reilly Fish team to get the win. O'Reilly, during the match, accidentally hit Adam Cole, and Cole, after the match, was still selling that hit and was hanging out with the Bucks outside the ring and didn't come back in the ring to celebrate with Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, and the Bucks were arguing with O'Reilly and Fish, asking O'Reilly why he hit Adam Cole. And Cole seemed a little bit upset with O'Reilly for accidentally hitting him. So we're doing a thing now where Cole, last week we thought it would be Cole and O'Reilly and Fish against the Bucks and, maybe Kenny or something, but now it seems like Cole, not sure he can trust O'Reilly and Fish, maybe leaving O'Reilly and Fish on their own as a tag team and Cole on his own with the Bucks to do whatever there. That was the main event. Storyline progression, at least, right? Things changed a little bit. Last week we thought, Undisputed Era's back together. They booked them in a match together next week, Here we go. Back together. But now, it's like Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole not quite getting along, which is kind of annoying because they're just continuing an NXT storyline. It's like, make up your own story as AEW, but it's what they're doing.
But I can understand why they'd have that group together. I mean, people talk about them. I'm not that interested, but I know a lot of people are really interested in seeing them together. So I understand that, why you do that. And I think O'Reilly and Fish as a team, that's a really good team just to have in your tag team division. So
yeah,
maybe them on their own, that's fine actually as it is. But I feel like this is just going to go back and forth for a while, where it's like, Cole's with the Bucks. No, he's back with the Undisputed Era. It's going to go back and forth. I think eventually they're just going to be a group together until Kenny comes back.
Like one big super group?
I mean, they had it when they had the Good Brothers, but they're gone.
Yeah.
So I think O'Reilly and Fish just take that spot.
It makes sense. I think that made the most sense. The Bucks to be jealous that Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish are around with Adam Cole. Like, it's not really an adult thing to do. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The Young Bucks should welcome.
Like adults a lot.
Yeah, I know, but the Young Bucks should welcome these guys, right? They should be happy that they have more backups so they could be a stronger group, strength in numbers. Not, jealous that these guys are also friends with their friend. It's childlike. So.
No, that sounds like the Bucks.
I guess so, but, we'll see. The Acclaimed cut a pre-tape promo on Darby and Sting. Sting and Darby cut a promo right back on them. Hikaru Shida cut a promo on Serena Deeb. They're still feuding. Ricky Starks and Willie Hobbs cut a promo on Dante Martin. That thing's still going on. Brian Pillman Jr. interviewed in the ring. Talked about facing Malachi Black next week. Pillman says we're going to see a new Brian Pillman Jr. next week. The lights go out and Malachi Black appeared on the stage but didn't actually go in the ring or do anything. That was, What do you think the new Brian Pillman Jr. will be?
I don't really know if it's going to be much different. Just maybe he's more intense, possibly. That's about it. Like, it seemed like that's all it was that he did in this promo, was they just showed more fire, which was nice. But I don't know, like, he's going to do this radical change. It just, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Brian Pillman Jr. right now.
Me neither. I think it'll be more of the same. Another win for Malachi Black. CM Punk cut an in-ring promo. Punk welcomed back Jim Ross. Happy to see JR back. Punk talking about being in Daly's place for the first time and how that place reminded him of his friend Brody Lee. Of course, Brody Lee's entire AEW career was at Daly's place. Punk says he feels sorry for anyone minimizing the impact of Brody because it meant that they hadn't met him. I don't know if you saw, but there was a piece of human garbage on Twitter who said something to the effect of Brody Lee was just a mid-card guy. I don't know why everybody's so excited about him on the anniversary of his death when everybody was posting tributes to him a few days ago. This moron that I won't even dignify by mentioning his name because I don't want you going to look him up and listen or see what he says. Actually, you can't listen to what he says because he's been kicked off his own podcast network because he's that much of a piece of trash. But, of course, CM Punk mentioning him without actually saying his name only gives him more, confidence, I'm sure. If you're a Twitter troll, if you're just an idiot who goes out and says stupid things on a constant basis, and CM Punk mentions you without actually saying your name, like you're going to be emboldened by that. So I'm sure this moron is emboldened by what CM Punk said, but I can assure you this guy who said this stuff about Brody Lee is an absolute piece of trash. Just total bum, loser, pathetic. Punk talks about MJF, says MJF is a Twitter troll. He says Punk says MJF wants to be the AEW champion and he's done with him. Well, if MJF is done with Punk and he doesn't want to wrestle, well, fine then. Punk also wants to be the AEW champion, and if MJF doesn't want to wrestle, fine. But it would be a shame if somebody interfered in MJF's quest for the gold. So MJF, I guess, will have some matches. CM Punk will interfere, and then at some point they will have to wrestle each other, which is the end game of this. It wasn't the six-man tag last week. It is a one-on-one match between CM Punk and MJF. Maybe they're trying to delay it as much as possible. I don't think you can delay it all the way to March 6th at the pay-per-view, but maybe you can. I think this one gets done on a Dynamite. You think they're going to wait till March 6th to do Punk versus MJF? That's a long time.
Well, think about it. I mean, the next big one is the whole TBS debut, and that's jam-packed. There's no way they're putting that on that show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do they really have? There'll probably be a big show in February. But, I mean, if you have a big show in February and you're having a pay-per-view in March, you're going to save that match.
Yep. Don't they have a special Dynamite, Saturday Night Dynamite at some point that they want to beef up?
But that's a title thing. That's only a 1 hour show.
Oh, yeah? Okay. It's a 1 hour show? When is that?
Yeah. That's going to be, I think, the 8th. So not the first Saturday, the next Saturday in New Year.
Okay.
That's where we get
Britt
Baker against Rio.
Yeah.
That's probably the main event.
Doug Hepburn says, Dave, explain to me the Tim Tebow remark CM Punk made. I guess there was a comparison when Punk first went to the UFC. I have no idea. Tim Tebow, I know, was a football player, and Punk says that MJF is a bigger waste of con money than Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, I guess, played for Jacksonville Jaguars, which is owned by the Cons, who also own AEW. I don't understand that reference. I've heard of Tim Tebow, but I don't know anything about him other than he was a good college player. He's very religious, and he was not that good in the pros, right? Do I have that right?
Well, actually, he was okay in the pros. It didn't last long. But then he tried to make a comeback, and it didn't work out too well with Jacksonville.
With Jacksonville,
he didn't make the team. So that's kind of why Punk made the mention about the whole waste of con money, where it's just he couldn't even make the team, so it was a waste of time.
Okay. Well, there you go, Doug. I hope that explains it to you. I cannot explain football references to you because I don't watch football.
You knew it was football, at least.
Yeah, the crowd popped for it because it was a Jacksonville crowd, right? They got it. I knew it was football. Yeah, Tim Tebow, I know who he is, but I don't know much about him. Angelo wants to know what our match of the night is. I already gave you my match of the night. It was the opener. The 10-man tag. FTR and Matt Hardy at the Private Party beating Christian, Jurassic Express, and the Lucha Brothers. That was my favorite match of the night. John, are you in agreement with that? Do you have another match you thought was better? Maybe Wardlow and Colin Delaney, just a few power bombs or something?
I think you're right. I mean, match-wise, there wasn't anything really that strong tonight. First match was all right, but really all right was really the best we got.
Yep. And the promo of the night was Brandy Rhodes and Dan Lambert. Kind of a weird episode of Dynamite. Not a bad episode of Dynamite, but just odd, right? Like, where was Brian?
Well, they had the whole, their training, right? They had that whole, montage they showed.
Okay. It's kind of weird,
Which was very
match is next week.
Though. Was that when they talked about it? Where it's pretty much the announcers said they think Brian's going to win. So it's well, that's never good when the announcers all think that. I was thinking that way too, but if the announcers say that, that's never a good sign. But they didn't announce who the judges were yet either. And that was going to be a good sign to know what really happened. But they said there'd be 3. So again, I feel like if it goes to the judges, I feel like this is going to end up being, again, a draw.
I don't know if you can have this go to the judges. If you do, that's half the show. Are you going to do half the show again for Brian and Hangman? Are we going to go another hour draw and have it decided by the judges when, next week is a big episode of Dynamite. We have 3 title matches announced already. You have the world title match, Hangman and Brian. You have Jurassic Express versus the Lucha Brothers for the tag team titles. You have Jade Cargill versus Ruby Soho for the TBS title. And you have Malachi Black versus Brian Pillman Jr. So they've announced 4 matches already for next week. Now, sure, they sometimes announce 3-4 matches for Rampage and they get them done in an hour. It's possible they do Brian versus Hangman in the first hour, and then they do the tag title match, the TBS title match, and the Pillman Black match in the second hour. They could do that. They wouldn't have much time for anything else on the show, but they could do that. I just wonder if they do it. It was so good a few weeks ago. Match of the year. One of the greatest matches in AEW history. 1 hour time limit draw for the world title. Hangman Page, Bryan Danielson. Incredible. You really going to ask these guys to do it again 3 weeks later?
Super chat.
Are you going to ask them to do it again?
I wouldn't be surprised. I just feel like it's not going to end here, though. I don't know about you. I feel like we're going to get another match. No matter what happens, there will be a third match.
I think so. I think there'll be a third match, but I think Hangman walks away next week still champion.
Maybe. But again, the announcers kind of threw it off there when they all say pretty much Brian's going to win. That's never a good sign.
I hope so. What do you mean not a good sign? Be a good sign for me. Could you imagine next week, John, how crazy I'm going to go on this show if Bryan Danielson becomes AEW World Champion and Jade Cargill becomes TBS Champion? You know how crazy I'm going to go on this show next week? It's going to be the greatest night in pro wrestling history. Bryan becomes World Champion. Jade gets the TBS title. What? It's the best. That's the best. The only way you can make it better is if Bryan wins with help from a little twin magic. Give me some twin magic, baby. I want Nikki and Brie to help Bryan win. You imagine the heat. The heat that Bryan would get if his wife Brie Bella helped him win. Holy shit. And if Nikki was there too? Fearless Nikki? Damn. You want to talk about beefing up the AEW women's division? Can't get much bigger or better than the Bella Twins. Say what you want about the Bella Twins, whatever you may feel about the Bella Twins. You're wrong. They're fantastic. Two of the biggest stars in the history of the women's wrestling world. They are top stars, top draws. And they would get big heat for Bryan if they showed up with him. Just saying. Let's go Bellas.
We'll see what happens. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Bryan as champion. I feel like it's going to happen one day. I just don't know if it's going to be next week. It'd be, I think, a great way for AEW to start TBS.
Yes.
Have a new world champion. It's a good start. But again, I don't know. I'm leaning more towards the draw again.
Well, if it is a draw, we're going to have a winner. The judges will score it, so they could score it for Bryan, right?
And we don't know who these judges are yet, too. It's I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this.
I think it's Sal D'Amato, Adelaide Bird, and Chris Tione. No?
Thought it'd be like Jake, but apparently from our headlines, Jake has COVID, so it's not going to be Jake.
Jake Roberts has the Rona now? Well, where's Jake been anyways? Well, I guess Lance Archer's been like mad hurt since that match where he landed on his head. So we haven't seen Jake or Lance. I miss Lance. Hope Lance is all right. He was awesome. That match he had where he landed on his head was awesome too.
Well, hopefully he doesn't land on his head again, though. I mean, he can have good matches without landing on his head.
Yeah, but it's more fun when you land on your head, isn't it?
No.
I mean, not for the wrestler, but for the viewer. You know, the car crash is what we all like. So Bryan versus Hangman next week. I got Bryan winning. I think Bryan's going to be the new AEW World Champion. Jurassic Express versus the Lucha Brothers. I think the Lucha Brothers wind up retaining. Jade Cargill versus Ruby Soho. I got Jade as the first ever TBS champion. And Malachi Black versus Brian Pillman. I mean, come on. Malachi, obviously. You disagree with any of that, John?
Just I think the world title, I think we got another draw.
Yeah, but then the judges, John.
I think the judges will also, regardless, they'll still be a draw. It would be nice to know who the judges are. It would really help with this, but still going to say draw.
I think it would help if we knew the scoring criteria. Is there a 10-point must system? What's the criteria? Whatever. It's stupid. It's judges in pro wrestling. It's a silly gimmick, but hey, it'll be something for the match next week on Dynamite. Coming up on Rampage this Friday, we have Cody Rhodes versus Ethan Page. Cody defending his newly won TNT title, which made me laugh quite a bit when I was watching on Christmas night, Cody Rhodes take the TNT title from Sammy Guevara. You gotta laugh.
It was a good match.
It was very good. I really liked it. Funny though that they gave it to Cody. You know, he's a heel. Like, I don't care how they book him or whatever. Like, he's obviously a heel. He takes the title from Sammy Guevara. That's a heel move. That's fantastic. It made me laugh.
You know, I just like we kind of mentioned this on Twitter. I think he's got the most interest right now out of most guys on the roster. Just it makes sense to make him the champion because more people want to see him lose it now.
That's it. AEW trots out so many people that you just don't give a shit about. Cody, you care about. You may hate him, but you care about him. You care enough to hate him. Cody is a guy that people are interested in right now. When Cody comes out, he's a fascinating character. So he'll beat Ethan Page this Friday on Rampage, defending his TNT title. Darby Allin will beat Anthony Bowens as well on Rampage. And Johnny North's favorite, Ty Conti, teaming up with her friend Anna Jay versus Penelope Ford and the Bunny in a street fight on Rampage this week. Oof. That could be really bad. I assume that will be an awful match.
I mean, it's Rampage, right? I mean, how many matches are going to go that long, really? Like, I don't see that going more than 6-8 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would hope so. Rampage coming up on Friday. Can't believe they're actually doing a show New Year's Eve. Is anybody going to watch that?
Yeah, I'll watch it. Why not?
No, you'll watch it, but anybody else? I don't know. We will not be on New Year's Eve because it's New Year's Eve, and I'm not counting down the new year with Johnny North. I'm just not doing it, John. I'm not doing it. Who knows if I'll even stay awake. But we will not be on this Friday because it's New Year's Eve, but we will be on next Friday, and then every Friday after that until, forever. So don't worry. Your Friday Night Wrestling fix will be back. Just taking the night off this Friday because of New Year's Eve. WWE not even doing a SmackDown. They're doing like a clip show. Best of the year, highlights of the year.
Oh, yeah, but they're not even on Fox this week. They're on Fox Sports 1 or something, or...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
It's
only a clip show. That's too bad.
You wish, Doug. You wish, my friend. Doug Hepburn with a good question. He says, Johnny, how did you become Genesis? Is there a story? Thank you for the super chat. Doug, you are the super chat leader. Harold Schneider right behind you. He says, good question, Doug. I am interested in the story. So Doug and Harold, thank you for supporting. They're dropping super chats. They want to know the story behind Genesis. How did you become Genesis?
I was teaming with a guy named Nemesis, and it's like a fan yelled out, let's go Genesis. And clearly it was like a mistake or something, but the promoter saw this and it's like, hey, that's a good name. You should be called that too, because it sounds better as a team instead. So that's why that happened.
So you were in Johnny North. It was Nemesis and Johnny North. And then the next time you teamed, it was Nemesis and Genesis. Nemesis Genesis?
That's correct.
How many times did you team with Nemesis?
2 or 3 times.
Yet the name stuck.
Yeah, well, people like the name. It's kind of simple. Yeah. It works.
Yeah. You big Phil Collins fan?
Not so much. Like, I know of it, but, not so big. I'm not so really big into it whatsoever, but it's nice.
Do you miss being Johnny North?
Well, I still actually, like, it's Genesis Johnny North. That's the whole thing.
That's the full official name.
Right.
And then there's El Contador, which is a totally different thing altogether. Maybe even
I don't
a
know
different
what you're
person.
talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Doesn't know
Crazy
what I'm talking
guy.
about. Crazy. What am I saying? So there is the Nemesis Genesis. I didn't even know that. I thought Jeremy just called you Genesis one day. He was like, you're Genesis. It's like, huh?
Well, that's how he came up with it.
Oh, so Jeremy did come up with the name. It was Jeremy, but it was a fan.
Well, because he was watching, like, he's the promoter, right? He was watching it through it, so.
Jeremy Prophet, our good buddy.
He was the booker.
Yeah. Well, I got one for Jeremy Prophet, and I got one for you.
What's that?
UFC 270. We're going hard on Cyril Gann. Let's go, Cyril Gann. It's like a pick 'em right now.
Not this weekend?
No. I'm telling you, it's January 22nd. I'm getting ready for it.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy likes to talk fight bets with me. We have an ongoing discussion about all the UFC bets that we're making. And I am very, 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 very high on Cyril Gann. I am Snoop Dogg on April 20th high on Cyril Gann. Very high.
Okay, well, looking forward to that. Should be a good fight.
I think Cyril pieces up Francis and beats him easy. The fact that Cyril right now is a pick'em, I think, is funny. Cyril will 100% win. It's a goddamn lock, and I'm putting everything behind it. Okay? I don't do this very often,
cool.
John. I don't give you a guarantee very often. This is another guarantee. I gave it to you with Juliana Pena. I feel confident about an MMA pick when I'm talking about it with you on a wrestling show. That's a month out, right? I'm confident. Yeah. Put some of that Christmas money down and make yourself rich in 2022. Because Cyril Gann is winning that shit. Even the UFC's betting on Cyril Gann to win that. It's Francis Ngannou's last fight on his contract. And they asked Dana White, Dana, what happens if Francis loses? He's like, or what happens if Francis wins? He's like, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens, And what happens if he loses? well, you have to make a decision, and, we'll see. Last fight in his contract, they stopped negotiating with his manager in, June. They're letting him go. They're letting Francis walk. They know he's going to lose. Francis and Cyril used to train together. Their coach is telling the UFC, Cyril will beat this man. Francis, it doesn't matter how much better he's got since the last time he trained with us. There's no way he's better than Cyril. Cyril is much better. They've trained together. They've sparred for a lot of times in the gym. Cyril always got the better of him. Cyril is a guarantee. The UFC knows it. The coaches know it. Francis knows it. And Cyril knows it. And Dave knows it too. And now you know it. The UFC is betting on Cyril Gane. They haven't signed Francis to a new contract. If he wins, he's the champion and he can walk. You think the UFC is going to let their heavyweight champion just mosey on out of the company without giving a new contract? Hell no. Why are they not offering him a new contract? Why are they not begging him to stay? Because they know he's going to lose. Because they know he's going to lose. I know it, and you know it. Let's make that money.
Yeah,
Team
so
Dave. Right? You like that,
Angelo
Johnny?
says he knows it now, too.
Angelo knows it now, too. We know it. Where's my man Patrick? Patrick bet with me on Juliana Pena. He knew it. Angelo didn't believe, but Angelo believes now. You got to go with Team Dave, Angelo. Stick with Team Dave. Team Dave will show you the way. All right. Go check out our Raw post show. If you didn't watch the Raw review show from this past Monday, go check it out. Myself and my brother, the Simon brothers, we watch Raw every week for you. And then we talk about it for you every Monday night. We were on this past Monday, and we did a WWE Day 1 preview show. We talked about WWE Day 1. We gave you our predictions for the matches. WWE Day 1 this Saturday night in Atlanta. That's the next time I'll be on here talking pro wrestling with you, right after WWE Day 1 with my main man, Johnny North, and my brother. The whole team here on New Year's Day for WWE Day 1. Right after Day 1, we'll be here recapping the action. Apparently, a big thing's going to go down with Brock and Roman and Heyman, so we'll tell you all about it and tell you what we think going into WrestleMania. This is supposed to be a big pay-per-view, the first ever edition of WWE Day 1, going down this Saturday night on the WWE Network. It's going to be good. Well, it might not be good, but our post-show will be good. I don't know if Day 1 will be good. But that's what we're doing. So I'll be back here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Doug says something tells me tomorrow night's MMA show will be fun with AJ. It will be. AJ and Freddie back with me tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We will recap the year that was in MMA. We'll talk about our favorite moments, our favorite fights, our favorite fighters from 2021. We'll also talk about Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane. Talk about Dana White not offering Francis another contract and what that means for the fight. I just gave you a little preview of my thoughts. We'll hear what AJ and Fred think tomorrow night on Ringside Report MMA. And that is that. Doug Hepburn, you are a Super Chat leader of the night. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Harold, for dropping Super Chats as well. Shout out to all the members, Doug, Harold, Angelo, Ray Cruz. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Johnny and I will be back once again Saturday night after WWE Day 1. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. We appreciate everything, all the comments and all the things. And I'll be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Ringside Report MMA right here on the Ringside Report Network.